the ability that Heidi has to go into that in a surrogate session, to actually really tap in locations, times, persons, feeling their emotions, are highly accurate. Hello, this is Heidi and me, Andreas, from Hyperspace Connection. Today, we would like to talk about an experience that we had a few days ago with our surrogate session for a client from abroad. And there are a few points that we think would be really important and interesting to talk about for you to understand. As always, if you think or see this video is important for you or our work, please show your appreciation with a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed now, to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.
This video will help you understand a little bit more on what a surrogate session is and what to expect as well.
And what to not expect as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to go through a few points here and discuss them. And if you have questions or you have some comments, please let us know those comments below the description section on YouTube. Okay, we had a few days ago a client coming in, and before we go into more details about the session, we will explain you as well what the surrogate session is for those that maybe don't know that. But after that, we're going to discuss those points that we think is really important to talk about. So I'm going to explain just one or 2 points. Surrogate session, we will explain that. But a client that we had came with a lot of expectations, and of course expectations are very hard to fulfill if you do not work with yourself. But we're going to go deeper into that in a moment. So maybe Heidi, you're going to explain just brief what the surrogate session is.
Actually, it takes a lot of time for both of us, but I do some meditation. I actually have a picture of someone that we're working with, and then I go into my meditation. So these sessions are basically for someone who might not be able to go into a hypnosis session, or maybe it could be a family member or someone that is not able to be reachable due to other conditions as well. So when we do this, there's a lot of work and energy involved in both of what we do, and it takes time. So we have to prepare quite a bit. And in the session, the client is actually able to have some questions as well. And we go into that in the middle or towards the end of the session, depending on where it leads to. So that basically kind of explains a little bit about that. As, let's say, I'm more of a vessel or a channel, or bringing that through me, as well as Andreas helps facilitate the session, and helps guide me through what's going on in the session as well.
Yeah, to maybe as well understand the setup. The setup is that Heidi and I are together as a team. As she said, she's a channeler and a facilitator, and there is a client, and usually we are connected over Skype. So we have the table, she's laying on the table, we have our camera set up, they're running to record. I'm ready with my questions that I got from the client, and the client is actually online on Skype. Sometimes we decide not to do that, but usually it's possible to do. So the client can actually watch us working. And if necessary, I can even talk to the client live while Heidi is in trance, and to gain some more information, or the client can have a question asked to her directly. It's free flow, you never know what to expect. So that's the setup. We record everything on our own camera, we record it on Skype itself, and we have an audio recording just to make sure that we have enough recording if something fails. Sometimes that happens. So that's the technical aspect. It doesn't matter where the client lives, could be the next town or around the world. So we have to set up the date and the time to get connected through Skype and start with the session. So without further ado, we just had another session, and we had many other hypnosis sessions prior to that, but I think this session triggered a few things that we would like to talk about. So what's the first point that you would like to talk about that would be important and interesting, or important for the clients that maybe want to have a session one day like this?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I do believe that the client should know to come into this with no expectations. So just allow the information to come through, and only the client will know what the meaning of that is. So when I do these sessions, there are pictures or things that I feel or that come through, and at times I might see an image and say what that is, but I have to be very careful with that, because just of what it might look like or feel, it could mean something different. So it's very similar to remote viewing as well. And that's kind of what I'm doing already with that. So as far as expectations, that I've learned as well is to be careful to assume that this is what is going on. And I don't know this, but the client on the other side that I'm doing that for will know in some way. Once they listen, maybe not at the time, but when they start to listen through the session, things will start to click for them more.
Yeah.
And so I think the expectations is just allow it to come. That's one most important thing before starting a session like this.
So basically to have no expectations somehow.
Yes.
Because with certain kind of expectations, the rate of failure is quite high, but it doesn't fail with us working, it fails with the client, because the client will feel that this session maybe didn't bring forth what you expected. And we're going to go deeper into what some expectations are and why they not work in many cases. But yeah, to not have expectations in this session. And of course we try to brief people and to make them understand, not just over our website and the information, but as well through emailing and communication, whatever is necessary. But this is a huge problem with not just surrogate sessions, but hypnosis sessions as well, that you have one-to-one. People come with expectations to be healed like a miracle, like, okay, we are responsible for now you're not going to have any cancer anymore, or whatever condition that is prevailing. So the next point is what I wrote down here is exactly that, expectations to have some miracle healing. So let's talk about healing. How does healing really work, in our opinion? What do you have to say about that?
Well, healing comes in within ourselves. So I think through all these sessions, whether it's a surrogate session or a regular client one-on-one basis, there are reasons why things are coming forward in the session to help you understand maybe why certain conditions are developing. And that can be in whatever process takes through in the session. But that is basically kind of what navigates to the healing as well, because you really have to believe in yourself and the work as well. You are your own healer. No one else can be a magical healer for yourself. You're your own individual person. And I think by doing these sessions, it helps you to realize and understand the process of how this works as well.
Yeah, I think that's the point here. We are not here to heal you. Okay, we are here to show you the reasons that maybe brought you to the condition that you have, if it's physically, mentally, emotionally. We just go there to make you understand. But it's up to the client then to do something about it. Okay, we are not going to heal anything. Just make you understand a few points. And that to miracle healings, it can happen, but even if a miracle healing happens, it didn't happen through us. It happens through you and probably through your higher self, if the higher self deems it to be right to do. But sometimes certain conditions and diseases are not coincidence. They are there to teach you something. And that may be hard to believe, but that's what we learn, and many other hypnosis practitioners as well. We hear again and again from the higher self that no, this person has to go through it because it's a learning tool. So not all the conditions or diseases, if you want to call it that way, are going to go away because they have to be there. It's up to you if you want to believe that or not, but that's the experience that we and many others have. Yes, and then the point that it's only the client that can understand the information that comes through.
Yes.
Talk about that.
So, even if you're doing a one-on-one or surrogate, so I'm putting them both into what I'm saying here, is that as a practitioner, we have to put aside and allow them to understand within themselves on why this information is coming through. So we might have an idea, but to them it could be something totally different. And that's why these sessions are recorded, so that the client can actually go back and listen and watch as well. Because not only listening, but seeing with their own eyes in the video of the facial expressions and where maybe the sadness is coming from, you might see them crying, and they see that on the
emotional
video.
responses.
So in that specific time frame of what's happening in the session, that's kind of like a red flag. Oh, I need to be paying attention to why this is happening right now. So that kind of explains a little bit with that.
Yes. From there, I would like to go to what we experienced and to bring that forth. Imagine you or somebody else wants to go forward and do work like that, maybe decides to have a hypnosis session one-to-one or a surrogate session. We still think one-to-one session is more powerful, it's more important, but sometimes it doesn't work because you explained why that may be. Doesn't work, so we need the surrogate session, but one-to-one is still to prefer. Just that has to be clear. So you go from one hypnosis practitioner to the other, and every time you go there, you feel or you think it didn't work. Okay, why is that? And then you go to the next one, and to the third one, and fourth one, and it will not work out in some way. That's the viewpoint of the client. Why is that?
Well, I think there's a few different things when it comes to that. There could be a mindset failure already, a fear. Fearing the outcome of it is a big thing as well.
Absolutely. So the fear of failure. So if the session fails in the eyes of the client, usually it's put towards the practitioner. Okay, the practitioners or those that made the session with me, they were not good enough, they didn't know what to do, the information that came through is worth nothing. So they put the failure, and actually it wasn't a failure, but they see it that way, towards the practitioner or the facilitator. That's another sign that the person is actually not even ready to change something, because everything seems to be the responsibility from somebody outside of the client, not of the client itself. And that's something that is observed everywhere, not just in our field of work. It's whatever.
Work or
yes, it's always okay.
Situations.
If it doesn't work, it's the mistake of the other person.
Mm-hmm. But that's when you need to kind of look within yourself. Why do I feel like that?
Exactly.
Why am I feeling that everything's failing?
Yeah.
So
actually now you have a session and then you think again, well, it failed, the facilitator didn't do the job like I would do, and they should have done it this way. So 2 hours of information flow is thrown into the pit. So it doesn't work, it didn't work, it's a failure, nothing there. It's a choice. The client.
And it's learning, I think, as well.
It's not our fault or any practitioner's fault if the client feels it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mindset of the client itself, and to accept certain information. What else do I have here? Well, maybe another point is, it's interesting when you get feedback from a client. What happens with us? Well, how do we feel in that moment, and how have we to deal with that? What did we observe?
Well, I think, you really have to set aside the emotional aspect of that. And, we talked about this, we put a lot of time and energy into this, and love the work that we do. And we know that the outcome is going to be whatever comes through, but we're not responsible for how the client feels. It's almost like we have to separate that from otherwise it can affect us in some way. So
it could affect us if we are not observing and be vigilant about it.
Well, yes. And then that comes with knowing within us we are doing the best work that we can. And, we have to look, what after these sessions is to disconnect from that and allow the information to go to the client and what they, what they are going to have with the outcome of the session. So it's very important for us to disconnect, because now we have to move on to other sessions as well.
Exactly.
You can't just keep that energy inside of you. Yeah. So it's more of separating as well.
So that's more the part of our part, how we have to deal with feedback.
And we love feedback. I think that with any type of work that you do, it's important to know positive and negative feedback, where we're all learning as well. So I think that's important.
Okay. So anything else that would be important today to talk about? What we wanted to talk about that comes to your mind? Well, maybe I want to say something here. Some of you maybe know us already, some of you don't. But I can tell you that the ability that Heidi has to go into that in a surrogate session, to actually really tap in locations, times, persons, feeling their emotions, are highly accurate. There are many so-called channelers and mediums and whatever you want to call it out there, and even providing videos and information on YouTube and internet. And that's a point I actually wanted to talk about already, but I refrain. But there's a lot of stuff out there that is not accurate. In my opinion, it's far off sometimes, but attracts a lot of attention. With what we do now, I don't want to put us above that, but we just work differently. We work differently. We are honest with ourselves. We are as well looking and observing our work, and not just whatever comes through is going to be the truth. We are really very careful with that. But I know, and I because we are now for a couple of years working together, that Heidi is one of those few people doing a really good job. So whoever is listening to this video and even maybe one day will have an experience with us or are watching our YouTube videos, this is very honest and authentic work that we do. And just to make the point there, I just wanted to do that a long time, because it's a little bit disturbing what kind of information is out there on the internet and YouTube. And I don't want to use the word crap, but there's a few things that is really crap out there. So whatever you want to think about that, but that's my opinion. So
I agree in some point, and you know, we talked about this as well as when I go through these sessions, I'm there, I'm feeling, and I'm feeling the emotions, I'm tasting, I'm smelling, and I'm not saying no one else does that as well, but it just happens. And for me, I'm not someone that likes to be in the spotlight, you know, and you know, there's times when I kind of was like, my gosh, like, is this, I don't want people to know this, or judgment or this and that, but it was a process for me to let go of that, and it's not about that. It's about the authenticity.
yes,
To
nice
the whole
word, huh?
to the whole process, and you know, I think we all have a gift in some ways, and this to me is we're brought together for that as well. So
Yeah,
everything that comes through is authentic, and I don't allow anything to control that as well. And I'm very careful on the information that's out there, because I don't want the influence of that as well. Yes, we have to be knowledgeable about some things to a certain point, but I think that sometimes when we do that too much, it does not become authentic.
Yeah.
And it's more of a story that's being told.
Yeah.
When it's the whole process of everything, and it's just not laying down and, okay, I'm here and this is what's happening. No, it's being there in the moments and the time, and not having any expectations within myself, and just allowing it to flow. And you help with that by facilitating me through that as well. So
yeah. So to maybe end that here is, whatever you watch out there on YouTube, be careful and try to discern what you think is the real thing, and don't be misled by just storytelling. And that happens. We can say that it's happening on the net, and just be vigilant and do very good discernment about all that stuff. So we were just rambling a little bit and trying to explain here. You maybe find this video, this information useful. That would be great. If not, that's okay too. But I would say we wish you a wonderful day, and more work will be coming soon, as we had a little summer break too.
yes.
And you guys had to, and I hope you are feeling all well and enjoyed the summer. But let's go back to work, and we wish you well.
Wish you well.